Buck Martinez there? Oh, this is the first Buck Martinez of 2014 spring, Tim. You can smell it.
Feel it, yep.
You could feel it in your bones. This winter has kicked everyone's ass. We are waiting for spring, Tim.
Despite shoveling for an hour this morning,
I'll do it later.
I hear Buck's voice, and I feel better because spring's coming.
Buck, do me a favor. Just say in your best Buck voice, spring is coming.
Spring is here, boys.
Oh, that's outstanding. That felt good, Buck. That felt good.
Summer is right behind, so don't worry that snow's going to go away pretty soon.
I was thinking of shoveling my backyard because I'm worried about when it melts. Like, this is just unbelievable.
You know you're going to fall into like an 8-foot bank and I'm never going to see you again. Don't go into your backyard. Were you crazy?
A path for my dog. This is ridiculous.
Crazy.
All right.
All right, Buck. Ubaldo Jimenez. Is this a big miss? He was on the radar for a while for a lot of teams, but like what is this guy?
Well, Jimenez last year got off to a terrible start, and then the Cleveland Indians found out that he was tipping his pitches. And if you're tipping your pitches, and he got hammered by Boston, New York, and Detroit early in the season because they had his pitches. And if you think about the players with the Red Sox, Yankees, and Tigers, they're all veteran players. And if they have some information on a pitcher tipping his pitches, they'll wear you out. So in the second half of the season, they fixed it, and he pitched very well. Albeit he didn't pitch against the Yankees and Red Sox and Tigers in the second half, but he pitched much better. So, it could be a big miss. It's a big commitment, 4 years. The Orioles have overpaid in the past. They paid Brian Roberts 4 years, $40 million, and that contract killed him. So, it is a gamble, but I think they're hoping that they can have something happen in the next 2 years before they have to make a decision on Wieters and Chris Davis. So they took a shot with Ubaldo Jimenez.
Does that now become, Buck, and I get the feeling from our Twitter account right now, that it's Irving Santana or bust?
You know what? And I would be very, very aware, very leery of him because he gives up home runs. And Rogers Center is as tough as any place in baseball to pitch and keep the ball in the ballpark. And, he is just a fly ball pitcher, and it's a fly ball ballpark, and I don't know if it's a great match. You know what? I'd like to see the Blue Jays. And, they have three guys, and, question marks. Dickey's 39, Burley will be 35 in spring training, and Brandon Morrow, which is kind of interesting all of a sudden. He's 29, and he's going to be 30 in July. So they have those three guys, and, of course, Dickey and Burley have been the most consistent of the three. Brandon's never thrown 180 innings in any one season. So he's got to prove that he can be an ace. And he truly has the ace stuff, but he's got to go out there and make 32 starts this year. And, and if there's a lot of ifs and buts. Jay Happ adjusted his delivery, and he's 31. And, McGowan's 32 with a history of injuries. And, there are not a lot of young prospects outside of Stroman and Sanchez and Nolan. And I don't know that I wouldn't give these guys an opportunity to win a spot in the rotation and just go with them right now and get some seasoning under their belt.
Buck Martinez, we are delighted to hear his voice here on Tim and Sid Sportsnet Radio Network and 360. First full team workout for the Jays happens on Thursday. The Jimenez thing, Buck, I mean, you mentioned the different seasons he had last year for Cleveland. His last 13 starts, he did not allow more than 3 earned runs. So he closed pretty strong. And when you look at that Baltimore rotation with Tillman and Wai-Yin Chen, they're talented, but they're young. Like, he can go front of that rotation right away, and he will really, really help what they're trying to do. In a way, I can see Alex being a little more lukewarm on him than maybe a guy like Irvin Santana. But Jimenez should be able to help Baltimore a great deal.
Yes, he will. Jimenez is one of the best teammates in baseball. He's a hard worker. He's a great teammate. He loves to pitch. He loves to compete. And you know what? He did some phenomenal things in Colorado early in his career. Very difficult ballpark. Physically, he's got tremendous stuff, and I think they've ironed out a few issues. He's going to have a very good pitching coach in Dave Wallace. They've got Dave Wallace as pitching coach, Don Cheedy as the bullpen coach, a couple of guys that have been around baseball a long time, and Wallace has had a lot of success. So, that's going to help. They've got one of the best catchers in baseball in Matt Wieters, who gets the most out of every pitcher. Chris Tillman and Miguel Gonzalez and Wei Chen and now Ubaldo Jimenez, they've got the makings of a pretty good rotation. I think a big loss for them is Jim Johnson. But, they filled it with Grant Belfort, and they tried that. That didn't work, so they got Tommy Hunter. But losing Jim Johnson's going to have an impact, I think.
Buck Martinez joining us here on Tim and Sid. I got to ask a question because for the last little while, a lot of people have been trying to explain to me the rash of pitchers' injuries in Major League Baseball to guys being brought up before they're ready. And now we're hearing with this, kind of open competition for that 4 or 5 spot, maybe just the 5 spot, that names like Marcus Stroman and Aaron Sanchez, maybe even Sean Nolan might be considered in the mix to see if they can do it. Does that scare you at all that these guys might not be ready for that spot?
Not one bit.
No?
Think back to the World Series. Michael Walker.
Yeah.
22 years old, pitching in the World Series. I think you've got to go with the individuals. If they're strong and if they're, Brett Saberhagen and Doc Gooden and those guys came up at a very young age because they were talented. You've got to go with the talent. Chances are pitchers are going to break. They're going to break sometime. So run them out there, see how they can pitch, and if they can get major league hitters out, take them to the big leagues. You know what? The Blue Jays are penciled in for a last-place team this year. Everybody says, well, we're going to be better. They should be better. They were awful last year. But why not give Sanchez an opportunity? Why not give Nolan and Stroman an opportunity? Andrew Hutchison and maybe Kyle Drabek. But, I can see the guys I just mentioned all starting at AAA. And let them grow together. And until you get, and this is, a lot of people don't realize the reason Toronto wasn't aggressive on the free agent market is free agents don't want to come there yet. If you think back to the late 80s and early 90s, the Blue Jays were the most competitive team in baseball. Yeah. And all of a sudden they got Jack Morris, they got Dave Winfield, they got Paul Molitor, all the top free agents because they were knocking on the door. If you throw money at A.J. Pierzynski this offseason, he's going to say, thank you very much, but I want to go someplace where I can win. Free agents traditionally have made a lot of money already. They're financially secure. And the last piece to their puzzle and the opportunity of free agency allows them to pick a place they can win. The Blue Jays have to create homegrown talent, especially homegrown pitching, to the point where they become competitive, and then the complementary piece will come via free agency.
Buck Martinez here on Tim and Sid Sportsnet Radio Network and 360. Buck, Ari Dickey made, I thought, a pretty good point yesterday in that every rotation that has a good year has a surprise. There's normally a guy who comes relatively out of nowhere, or maybe just the expectations aren't that high, and he goes out and he'll get you 12, 13 wins. Who right now on this Jays roster is capable of doing that?
Well, I think if Brandon Mile won 12 or 13 games, that would be a surprise. I think Hutchinson's got a chance to do that. I think and McGowan has the stuff to do that, but he hasn't had health for a long time. McGowan certainly has the ability to be a surprise like that. Jay Happ could win 12, 13 games if he continues to gain confidence in his revitalized delivery and the adjustments he's made. I mean, there are some potential surprises in this roster. And Ricky Romero. Ricky has a history of winning and winning in the AL East. I think that's one thing that's a concern about the rotation is Morrow's 16-16 against the East for his career. Burley's 2-8, Dickey's 15-16, and Jay Happ is 6-6. Those top 4 pitchers, that's 39-46 against the East. You have to pitch better than that in your own division. And you know what? Why not take a shot with Hutchison and Drabek, and maybe Romero can bounce back, and maybe Stroman and Sanchez can kick the door in by July, and you can get, the experience off and running. And where do you want them to learn? Learn in the big leagues with your best coaches, your manager, and your best players around them. That's the way I look at it.
It just seems to me like the Jays looked at the free agent market, thought, here's what we'll have to pay. We might not be able to get this guy or this guy, fill in the blank wherever. We might as well just roll with what we got.
No, I once again, I have to remind you that it's not so much that the Blue Jays are reluctant to pay the price. I think the free agents are reluctant to take the money.
Right.
I think that has more of an impact than anything else. I think Alex went out there and made some legitimate offers to guys. But, a free agent is like, well, wait a minute. Can I go to Boston, maybe Tampa Bay, or to the Dodgers, or, to teams that can compete? St. Louis. Well, look at Oakland. Look what Oakland has done. I think Billy Beane's had the best offseason of anybody in baseball. He brought in Kazmir. He got Jim Johnson for Jamal Weeks. He improved his defensive depth with Craig Gentry. He got Luke Gregerson, who is a fly-under-the-radar impact reliever. They're going to have the best bullpen in baseball in Oakland. They brought up Sonny Gray last year. I mean, he's had a great run as a general manager, and there's not an ounce of Moneyball in what he has done recently.
Buck, when did Toronto become a small baseball market?
It's not a small baseball market. Toronto has the biggest market in baseball. It's a country.
But if people don't want to come here, but if people don't want to come here, in my eyes, that's a small market.
He just wants to win. They want to see wins.
It's not that. It's still about competition. When I went there in '81, and it was at Exhibition Stadium, and the Blue Jays had the best farm system in baseball, and all of a sudden we won in '85, and we were a consistent contender, and it was a destination for baseball players. And we have to remind folks that from 1989, when we moved to Rogers Center at the time, until 1994, when the strike hit, the place was sold out every night. People in the front office in Toronto don't really recognize what that was like. It was the place to be for every baseball player. You wanted to go to Toronto, and it can be that once again. There is no reason in the world it can't be. You saw the enthusiasm of the crowd last year.
Yeah.
And it's a very young crowd that goes to Rogers Center. TV numbers are up. This team has to get off to a good start this year. And if they get off to a good start, that place will be rocking.
So you don't want to hear it's early this year.
No more.
You don't want to hear that.
No, it is not early this year. It is late already.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Larson writes in via Twitter and says, "Hearing Buck's voice just makes everything better. #spring. #Jays."
Well, I tell you what, I'm excited for it. I'm right now in California and just wrapping up the off season. But boy, I can't wait to get down. We'll be on TV on the 27th, and I'm looking forward to it. Baseball is back, and with that, the snow melts, boys. The snow melts.
Thank you, sir.
Thank God.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time as always.
All right, you guys have a great day. Always great talking to you.
There is Buck Martinez, the TV voice of the Toronto Blue Jays. Two things. First, he brings up Waka, good point. The other thing about Waka is that he was a very talented starting college pitcher.
Not a lot of those guys kicking around.
But if I'll give Stroman, even though they've tested him as a closer as well, Stroman did play at Duke, throw starters innings. I think he had a 98 inning season at Duke, so it's a start.
Duke by Duke?
And we were yelling out names, and we yelled out Russ Ortiz.
Ramon
Ortiz.
That was my bad, too. I'm sorry.
It's even better. It's even better. We didn't even know
the best part. Only one guy caught it.
Russ Ortiz,
Ramon Ortiz.
Who cares?
It doesn't matter.
He sucked too.
Yeah.
Well, for a couple
and then he
days,
got hurt. But then he had the bad injury, and everyone felt bad. But whatever, he didn't pitch well.
He was good for a little bit. Everyone thought he was,
I really want to feel good about this team, Tim. Believe me, I do. I really, really do.